I opened the door expecting a delivery, but instead I found a woman who claimed she was my husband's real wife. In seconds, my perfect marriage crumbled, and I realized I wasn't his only love. I was his biggest lie. When people looked at us, they saw perfection. A loving husband, a comfortable home, a marriage that looked unbreakable. And for a long time, I believed it too. Adrian, my husband, was charming, successful, and endlessly attentive. He had a way of making me feel like I was the center of his world. Morning coffees, surprise flowers, little love notes tucked into my bag before work. He did all of it. To my friends, he was the husband they envied. To my parents, the son-in-law they adored. And to me, he was the man I thought I would grow old with. Our house was a reflection of that dream. A neat suburban home with white walls, a blooming garden, and photos of us smiling in every room. Our wedding portrait hung in the living room, capturing the moment I thought was the beginning of forever. Whenever I looked at it, I felt safe, secure, loved. We had our routines. Saturday morning breakfast at the little cafe on Fifth Avenue, where he always ordered blueberry pancakes and teased me for choosing the same avocado toast every time. Sunday evening walks in the park, his hand wrapped tightly around mine. Every detail of our life was a thread woven into what I believed was a perfect fabric. But perfection is often just an illusion, isn't it? Looking back now, I realize the small cracks had always been there. The late-night phone calls he brushed off as work emergencies. The business trips that seemed to come out of nowhere, the occasional distance in his eyes, even while he smiled at me. At the time, I told myself it was normal. Every marriage had its rough patches, right? I refused to see the shadows lurking at the edges of our happiness because I loved him, because I trusted him, because I believed him. One memory stands out to me now. A rainy evening, not long before everything changed. I had made soup, and we were sitting by the window watching droplets race each other down the glass. I leaned into him and said, "Promise me we'll always be like this. Just us, no secrets." He kissed my forehead and whispered, "Always." I clung to that promise as though it were unshakable truth. If only I had known that just weeks later, another woman would appear at my doorstep, calm, confident, and holding the very secret he swore never existed. That knock on the door would shatter everything I thought I knew about my marriage. It's strange how a single moment can split your life into two halves, before and after. Before the knock, I was a wife wrapped in love and trust. After it, I would become something else entirely. But that night, sitting with Adrian in the glow of the rain, I had no idea. I was still living in the before, still believing in perfection. Do you believe a marriage can ever be truly perfect, or is it always hiding cracks? It was an ordinary Saturday morning when my life split apart. I had just come back from the market, a bag full of fresh fruit swinging against my hip. Adrian was supposed to be home, but he texted earlier saying he had a last-minute meeting. I didn't think much of it. He often had emergencies that pulled him away. I hummed softly as I unpacked groceries, the house quiet except for the sound of rustling paper bags. Then came the knock. Firm, steady, not the kind of knock you ignore. I wiped my hands on a towel and opened the door, expecting maybe a delivery or a neighbor. Instead, a woman stood on my porch. She was elegant in a simple way. Dark hair pulled back neatly, eyes sharp and unwavering. In her hand, she held a slim folder pressed against her chest as if it were armor. "Can I help you?" I asked, forcing a polite smile. She tilted her head, studying me for a moment. Then she said words that hollowed me out instantly. "I think you're married to my husband." For a second, I thought I had misheard. My laugh was shaky, disbelieving. "I'm sorry, what?" She opened the folder. Inside was a marriage certificate, the ink stamped and sealed. And there, unmistakably, was Adrian's name. His handwriting on the signature line, his photograph with hers, smiling, hand in hand, just like the portrait hanging in my living room. The air left my lungs. This has to be some kind of mistake. Her voice was calm, almost too calm. "I wish it were. My name is Evelyn, and Adrian Whitmore is my husband, legally. For the last 7 years, 7 years." The number echoed in my skull. Adrian and I had been married for 5, which meant when he slipped that ring onto my finger, he already belonged to someone else. The ground beneath me felt like it was crumbling. My hands trembled as I gripped the doorframe, trying to steady myself. My mouth opened, but no words came out. Evelyn's expression softened, but her voice stayed firm. "I didn't come here to hurt you, but you deserve to know. I only found out about you recently." She paused, her gaze never leaving mine. "You're not the first. And unless we stop him, you won't be the last." I wanted to scream, to slam the door, to erase her words. Instead, I stood frozen, the weight of her revelation pressing me down. A stranger was telling me my marriage, my life, was built on lies. Behind her, the world seemed too normal. Birds chirped, the sun glowed, neighbors walked their dogs, yet inside me, everything had gone silent. Evelyn stepped closer, lowering her voice. "I know this is hard to believe, but I can prove it. Will you let me in?" And in that moment, with my heart pounding and my perfect life unraveling, I had to decide, trust the stranger, or trust the man who had promised me always. How would you react if a stranger showed up claiming to be your spouse's real partner? I should have shut the door. That would have been the sensible thing to do, slam it, lock it, and pretend none of this was happening. But something in Evelyn's eyes stopped me. It wasn't malice, it wasn't triumph. It was the quiet exhaustion of someone who had been carrying a secret too heavy for too long. Wordlessly, I stepped aside. She entered, her heels clicking softly against the hardwood floors. For a moment, the house that had always felt warm now seemed foreign, like a stage where I no longer belonged. We sat at the kitchen table. I wrapped my fingers around a coffee mug, just to have something solid to hold onto, though the coffee inside had long gone cold. Evelyn placed the folder between us, sliding it toward me like a dealer laying down a winning hand. Inside were documents, marriage certificates, photographs, even bank records. Adrian's name appeared again and again, tethered to hers. Smiling vacation shots, credit card statements for hotels I had never been to, receipts for gifts I never received. Each page was another stab to the heart. "How long have you known?" I managed to whisper. Her gaze faltered. 3 months. That's when I saw a charge on his account for a dinner, at a place we'd never been. I confronted him and he dismissed it. But then I found a picture online. She reached into the folder and pulled out a photo. My smile stared back at me. My arm looped through Adrian's. We were at our anniversary dinner, the one I had thought was so romantic. That's when I found you. The walls seemed to close in. I remembered that night, the way Adrian had toasted to forever, the way his hand had lingered on mine. All while another woman, his real wife, was waiting for him at home. Why come here? Why tell me? I asked, anger slipping into my voice. Evelyn straightened her shoulders. Because I was you once. He promised me the world and I believed him. I thought I was the only one. But I refused to let him keep spinning his web. And if you're anything like me, you deserve the truth. The truth? It tasted bitter. Tears blurred my vision, but I blinked them back. I didn't want to cry in front of her. I wanted answers, and only one person could give them to me. Just then, the front door clicked open. Adrian's voice rang out, casual, warm, as if the world hadn't just collapsed. Honey, I'm back. Evelyn's head snapped toward the sound. My body froze. When Adrian walked into the kitchen and saw us sitting together, the color drained from his face. His smile faltered, and for the first time since I'd known him, he looked afraid. Adrian, I said, my voice trembling but sharp, why don't you tell me how many wives you actually have? The silence that followed was heavier than any scream. Would you confront your partner immediately, or listen to the stranger first? Adrian froze in the doorway like a man caught in a crime scene. His briefcase slipped from his hand and landed with a dull thud on the floor. His eyes darted between me and Evelyn, his mask of confidence shattering with every second of silence. I rose slowly from my chair. My legs felt weak, but rage kept me steady. Say something, I demanded, my voice trembling. Tell me this isn't true. Adrian opened his mouth, then closed it again. For the first time, his polished charm abandoned him. His tie looked too tight, his skin too pale. Clara, I can explain. Evelyn scoffed. Explain? What's left to explain, Adrian? She deserves to know the truth. My chest tightened. I didn't want his half-truths. I wanted the ugly, raw confession. How long, Adrian? I asked, my voice low. How long have you been living two lives? He rubbed the back of his neck, avoiding my eyes. I didn't mean for it to happen this way. I love you, Clara. You have to believe that my laugh came out bitter and sharp. Love me? You've been married to her for 7 years, married to me for 5. Love doesn't look like this. Evelyn's voice cut through like a blade. And I suppose he told you you're the only one. Just like he told me. Adrian's composure cracked. Evelyn, stop. This isn't helping. Helping? She snapped. Do you even hear yourself? 2 women, 2 marriages, 2 lies. How many more, Adrian? He turned back to me, desperation pooling in his eyes. Clara, please, listen to me. I never wanted to hurt you. I couldn't let go of either of you. His words made me sick. Couldn't let go? As if we were possessions, trophies he could display in different homes. My hands clenched into fists. You didn't love us, you used us. You built 2 perfect little worlds and thought we'd never find out. His voice cracked. I thought I could keep it together. I thought I could make everyone happy. Evelyn slammed her hand on the table. No, Adrian. You thought you could make yourself happy. For a moment, silence fell again, thick and suffocating. My heart hammered in my chest. I realized then that the man standing in front of me wasn't the husband I thought I knew. He was a stranger who wore my husband's face. I took a step back, my voice cold and steady. I don't know who you are anymore, but I know what you've done, and you will answer for it. Adrian's face hardened, his desperation shifting into something darker. Clara, don't do this. You don't understand what's at stake. But it was too late. The truth was out, and there was no going back. For the first time in years, I saw him clearly. Not my husband, not my partner, just a liar who had built his empire of love on sand, and now the tide was coming in. Do you think it's possible to forgive such a betrayal? The hours after the confrontation blurred together. Adrian tried to talk, pleaded, justified, begged, but every word only sharpened the blade of betrayal. Evelyn and I sat side by side, silent but united, as he stumbled through excuses that sounded more like rehearsed speeches than truths. When I finally spoke, my voice was ice. Show me everything. Every lie, every detail. If you want even a shred of redemption, Adrian, you'll give me the whole story. He hesitated, then reached for his briefcase. With trembling hands, he opened it and pulled out a leather binder. He slid it across the table. I hesitated before touching it, my stomach knotted tight. Inside were documents that felt like daggers, joint bank accounts under different names, property deeds in cities I had never visited, photos of him at dinners and events with Evelyn while claiming he was on business trips. Page after page, the life I thought we had together unraveled. Evelyn leaned forward, pointing at one receipt. Paris, 6 years ago. He told me he was there for a conference, but apparently he was with you, Clara. I remembered Paris, how he had surprised me with tickets, how he whispered he wanted to see the world only with me. My throat burned. He told me it was just us, that it was special. Evelyn shook her head, bitterness flashing in her eyes. Nothing was ever special. Not with him. Adrian buried his face in his hands. Stop, please. You're twisting everything. I did love both of you, love. I spat the word like poison. You don't get to use that word. Love doesn't mean dividing yourself between 2 homes. Love doesn't mean lies piled so high you can't see the truth anymore. He looked at me, eyes glassy. I was afraid. Afraid of losing either of you. Afraid of being alone. But I wasn't moved. Fear doesn't justify betrayal. Fear doesn't erase the nights I lay beside him, believing I was his one and only. Evelyn's voice was steady, though her hands trembled. Do you know how many anniversaries he's missed? How many birthdays? How many times I sat waiting for him, believing his excuses? She glanced at me. We both did. Something inside me broke then, not with tears, but with clarity. He hadn't just lied to us. He had stolen years from us. Years of trust, faith, love that could have been given to someone worthy. I closed the binder and pushed it back toward him. I don't want your documents. I don't want your explanations. What I want is freedom from you. His face twisted, panic rising. Clara, don't say that. We can fix this, but there was no we anymore. The perfect marriage I thought I had was nothing but smoke and mirrors, and the man sitting across from me was the magician who had fooled us all. Only now, the illusion was broken, and there was no magic left to save him. Should secrets in a marriage always come out, even if they destroy everything? After the binder of lies was laid bare, the house no longer felt like mine. The walls seemed to echo with Adrian's deceit, every photograph on the wall a cruel reminder of smiles built on betrayal. I wanted to tear them down, shatter every frame, erase the life he had fabricated. But Evelyn's presence grounded me. She sat across from me, her expression a mixture of fury and quiet solidarity. For the first time since she arrived, I realized she wasn't my enemy. She was my mirror, another woman duped by the same man, trapped in the same illusion. Adrian, sensing the shift, grew restless. He paced the living room like a cornered animal. Don't look at her like that, Clara. She's not your friend. She's trying to turn you against me. I stood, meeting his gaze with a steadiness I didn't feel. You did that all by yourself. Evelyn's lips curled into the faintest, bitter smile. You really thought you could keep us apart forever, didn't you? Divide us, control us, and never let the truth touch the surface. Adrian's voice cracked, desperation leaking through. I gave you both good lives. You had everything. Security, love, a future. Why can't that be enough? Because it wasn't real, I snapped. None of it was real. The silence that followed was deafening. Evelyn's eyes met mine, and in that shared look, an unspoken agreement formed. We weren't rivals. We weren't enemies. We were survivors of the same betrayal, and together, we were stronger than his lies. Evelyn was the first to say it aloud. He doesn't get to control the narrative anymore. We do. Her words lit something inside me. I had been clinging to the ruins of my marriage, too afraid to let go, but now I saw the truth. I wasn't powerless. Neither of us were. Adrian stopped pacing, his face darkening as he realized what was happening. No, don't you dare. Don't you join forces against me, but that's exactly what we did. I turned to Evelyn. What do you want from this? From him? She took a slow breath. The truth exposed. Justice, closure. Whatever pieces of my life he still holds, I want them back. I nodded. Me too. I don't need his money, his apologies, or his promises. I just need freedom. For the first time that night, I felt a flicker of strength. A strange calmness washed over me, sharper than rage, stronger than grief. Together, Evelyn and I were no longer victims of Adrian's deceit. We were the ones who could finally hold him accountable. Adrian's face hardened. If you think you can destroy me, you're wrong. You'll regret this, but I no longer feared his threats. For years, Adrian had stood between us, controlling the narrative, weaving his web. But now, the threads were breaking. Evelyn and I had chosen sides, our side, and the man who thought he could play us both was about to learn what happens when two betrayed women stand together. Would you side with the other wife or cut ties with both of them? The next morning, the house felt eerily quiet. Adrian had stormed out in the middle of the night, muttering threats under his breath. I didn't chase after him. For once, his absence didn't sting. It felt liberating. Evelyn and I sat in the kitchen, coffee mugs between us. The silence was thick but not uncomfortable. We were still strangers bound by betrayal, yet there was comfort in not being alone in this storm. What do we do now? I finally asked, my voice low. Evelyn stared into her mug. We expose him. He built his life on lies, and it's time those lies burned down. Her words sent a chill through me, not because I disagreed, but because I knew she was right. Adrian had spent years crafting an image of success and charm, an adoring husband, a devoted partner, a respectable man. But beneath that mask was rot, and we were the only ones who could peel it away. Later that day, the fallout began. Adrian returned, but not to beg or explain. He came back furious, his mask completely shattered. You've ruined everything, he snarled, slamming his fist on the dining table. Do you have any idea what's at stake if this gets out? My reputation, my career, everything I've built. I stood tall, no longer shrinking under his anger. It was never yours to build, Adrian. It was built on us, our trust, our lives, and now it's crumbling. Evelyn crossed her arms. You should have thought about that before marrying two women and lying to both. Adrian's face twisted. Do you think anyone will believe you? People see me as respectable, charming, successful. You'll look bitter, crazy. But his arrogance cracked when Evelyn pulled out her phone. We have proof. Documents, photos, receipts. Your empire of lies is documented, Adrian. For the first time, I saw fear flicker across his face. Real fear. Over the next few days, things unraveled quickly. Evelyn contacted a lawyer, one who specialized in cases like this. I began quietly gathering my own records, emails, texts, receipts that painted the picture of Adrian's double life. Word spread faster than I expected, first to friends, then to colleagues. Whispers turned into phone calls and phone calls into confrontations. Adrian's carefully curated image began to fracture. Invitations disappeared. Deals he bragged about suddenly collapsed. One evening, he stormed back into the house, looking disheveled for the first time I'd ever seen. His tie was loose, his hair unkempt, his charm completely stripped away. You don't understand what you're doing, he hissed. You're destroying me. I looked him dead in the eye. No, Adrian. You destroyed yourself? Evelyn stood beside me, her presence a shield. Together, we were immovable. For years, Adrian had played us against each other, feeding lies to keep his world intact. But now, the tables had turned, and the fallout had only just begun. Do you think betrayal hurts more because it comes from someone you trusted most? The cracks in Adrian's facade widened with every passing day. Once admired and envied, he was now whispered about in hushed tones. Friends who had once fawned over him stopped answering his calls. Business partners grew wary. Deals slipped through his fingers. The man who thrived on control was watching his world collapse piece by piece. But Adrian wasn't the type to go quietly. One night, I returned home from meeting with Evelyn and the lawyer, only to find Adrian waiting in the darkened living room. The shadows clung to him, his face half-lit, his eyes wild. Do you feel powerful now? He asked, his voice low and venomous. Standing there with your little alliance thinking you've beaten me? I froze, then squared my shoulders. I don't feel powerful. I feel free. There's a difference. He shot up from the chair, his movements sharp, unhinged. Free? You think you'll walk away clean? I built this life for you, Clara. Everything you had was because of me. Anger surged through me, but beneath it was something new, pity. He still believed his lies, still convinced himself he was the architect of our happiness. You built nothing but a prison, I said quietly, and you chained us in it. His expression twisted, rage replacing desperation. You're ungrateful. Both of you. Evelyn should have stayed silent and you should have trusted me, but no, you had to dig. You had to ruin everything. Before I could reply, the door opened and Evelyn stepped in. She froze when she saw him, then calmly closed the door behind her. Still spinning your fairy tales, Adrian? She asked coldly. He whirled on her, pointing a trembling finger. You're the reason this is happening. If you'd stayed in your lane, none of this would have blown up. Evelyn crossed her arms, unshaken. You mean if I'd kept letting you lie to me? To her? To everyone? No, Adrian. The truth was always going to surface for a moment. His mask slipped completely. His face contorted with a mix of rage, fear, and something darker. He looked less like the charming husband I once knew, and more like a cornered predator. He lunged forward, slamming his hand on the wall inches from me. If you think you're going to destroy me, you're dead wrong. I refused to flinch. No, Adrian. You destroyed yourself the moment you chose lies over love. Evelyn stepped closer, her voice steady. And we're done letting you control us. Adrian's breath came in ragged gasps. For the first time, I realized he wasn't just losing his reputation, he was unraveling inside. His empire, his pride, his double life, all of it slipping away, leaving nothing but a hollow man clinging to scraps of control. The breaking point had come, and it wasn't ours. It was his. Is it better to rebuild your life alone or try to trust someone again? After that night in the living room, I thought Adrian had finally hit rock bottom. He looked broken, cornered, but I should have known better. Men like him don't surrender. They scheme until their last breath. The next morning, Evelyn and I went to meet with her lawyer. We discussed the path forward, annulments, asset divisions, legal charges if necessary. For the first time, I felt like I had a future without Adrian's shadow looming over me. Evelyn, too, seemed lighter. Her voice no longer edged with bitterness, but with resolve. But peace never lasts long with Adrian. When I returned home, the front door was ajar. My stomach sank. Inside, the living room was ransacked. Drawers open, papers scattered, picture frames smashed. I called out his name, but only silence answered. Then I noticed what was missing. The binder. The proof. Adrian had taken it. Panic clawed at me. Without those documents, our case would take longer, maybe falter. I called Evelyn, my voice shaking. He took everything. All the evidence. Her answer was calm, almost cold. Then we make more. Don't worry, Clara. I've been keeping copies. Relief washed through me, but it didn't erase the unease in my chest. Adrian wasn't stealing documents for nothing. He was planning something. That night, I found out what. My phone buzzed with a notification, an email from an unknown address. The subject line chilled me. Your wife is not who you think she is. It was Adrian. He had sent a mass email, not just to me, but to Evelyn's family, my family, colleagues, and friends. Inside were twisted half-truths, private photos, bank statements ripped out of context, anything he could spin to make us look deceitful, manipulative, unstable. He wasn't just trying to protect himself. He was trying to drag us down with him. Evelyn arrived minutes later, her face pale but resolute. She had received the same email. He's trying to turn everyone against us, she said, clutching her phone tightly. If he goes down, he wants us buried with him. I felt the sting of humiliation as messages began pouring in. Friends asking if it was true, my parents' worried voices on the phone. For a moment, I wanted to crawl into the floor, let shame consume me. But then Evelyn gripped my hand firmly. Don't you see? She said. This is his last weapon. Lies, smear campaigns. It's all he has left. She was right. Adrian couldn't control us anymore, so he was trying to control the narrative outside. But the difference now was that Evelyn and I weren't standing alone. We had truth, evidence, and each other. I straightened, my fear hardening into determination. Then we fight louder. We end this, once and for all, Evelyn nodded. Together. Adrian thought his final betrayal would silence us. But he didn't realize he had only given us more reason to destroy the web of lies he'd spun. The end was near, and this time, it would be ours to right. Would you seek revenge or focus on healing after betrayal? The storm Adrian unleashed threatened to drown us, but instead it cleared the sky. His email smear campaign backfired almost instantly. People who knew me, really knew me, saw through his lies. Evelyn's lawyer released the evidence we'd carefully collected, complete with timelines, financial records, and photographs. The contrast between Adrian's narrative and the truth was undeniable. By the end of the week, whispers about Adrian turned into open disgust. Friends cut ties, business partners backed away, and his once gleaming reputation crumbled to dust. The man who thrived on control was now the subject of ridicule and condemnation. But the real victory wasn't in watching Adrian fall. It was in reclaiming myself. One morning, I woke up to sunlight streaming through the curtains, and for the first time in months, I felt light. The house was still mine, but it no longer felt haunted. The ghosts of broken trust had been swept out, leaving only possibility. Evelyn and I met at a cafe that afternoon. She looked different, stronger, freer. There was no bitterness in her smile, only resilience. He thought he'd destroy us, she said, sipping her coffee. Instead, he gave us something he never could, each other. I smiled back, realizing how true that was. We had started as strangers bound by betrayal, but now we were allies, even friends. Together, we had dismantled his lies brick by brick. Later, Adrian showed up one last time. He looked hollow, his tailored suit wrinkled, his eyes red from sleepless nights. He stood at the threshold of my home, a man stripped of everything but pride. Clara, he rasped, please don't leave me like this. You don't know what it's like out there. Everyone's turned on me. You were my anchor. I studied him, the man I once believed was my forever. And for a brief moment, my heart ached, not for him, but for the woman I used to be, the woman who believed his every word, who thought love meant blind trust. You had anchors, Adrian, I said softly, 2 of them, and you cut the ropes yourself. His face crumpled, but I didn't waver. I closed the door not with anger, but with finality. And as the latch clicked shut, so did the last chapter of my life with him. That night, Evelyn called me. How does it feel? She asked. I looked around my quiet home, the silence no longer heavy but peaceful. It feels like freedom. And it did. For years, Adrian had written the script of my life, dictating love, loyalty, and lies. But now I was the author. The betrayal that once broke me had become the fire that remade me. I wasn't just surviving, I was free. Do you think closure after betrayal ever truly exists?